I love the sound of Mark Francois when he's crying the song of Brexit betrayal because he is, and the ERG are powerless completely. I mean, when they had, the previous government, it was very, very clear that the ERG's stance, the European Research Group, its star had very, very, very much fallen from grace. Like it had come crashing down to the floor. Just remember what happened. 2016, big uniting moment. Just had the referendum. We are not going to betray the will of the people. Mark Francois was out there. Hold on. Let me get his book out because I always forget that I've got this. Hold on. Oh no, here it is. I always forget it's a lot bigger than the other ones. Remember, leading the charge, his Spartans trying to block the way for, trying to be like the 300, making sure that, we hold the pass and claim that victory. Of course, as we always said, that victory came at a cost. First of all, you had a lot of Conservative MPs who were very, very much like, well, we've seen which way the wind's blowing. We think, we'll try this. This leave stuff. We'll support Brexit, but we are not 100% sure that we need to, shall we say, fully go all in, which would cause problems later down the line. And we'll get to that in a moment. And then, of course, you had very, very much one side who was like, right, we are going to sort of oppose Brexit. We do not think this is a very good idea. We need to sort of, wait a minute, stop and think again and do this. If we are going to do this, we're going to do it in the most pragmatic way to make sure that we limit the damage. And this was pretty much the Theresa May way. And of course, they hated Theresa May. And I always said it. Theresa May got given the absolute poison chalice. And bear in mind, as a politician, I don't like her. I don't like her. I think she did a lot of very, very, very horrific damage at the Home Office. She is pretty much responsible for the current state of our asylum system and the damage that she did when she was there. However, when she was Prime Minister, she tried her best. She tried her best to try and please both sides of the argument, recognizing, of course, that Northern Ireland was going to be a problem during these negotiations, despite the fact that Leave said, oh, don't worry about Northern Ireland. It's, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, because there was this some belief that if we left, then Ireland would somehow leave the EU as well. Don't ask me why. That was just a prevailing belief that a lot of Brexiteers had. Don't ask me why they believed that, but they did. And if you don't believe me, a couple of years after, of course, Brexit, there was that infamous interview that Nigel Farage did on Irish TV, where he said, "Oh, Ireland should leave sort of the EU," and yeah, he got laughed at very, very, very much so. But wind the clocks back, of course, back to that Theresa May period. She then, of course, sees this opportunity in 2017 that she can go and maybe break this deadlock, maybe get a bigger majority so that she can go and, get the deal that she wants. Also trying to, see the Brexiteers off the pass, get more people on her side into Parliament. Of course, at the time, all the polls were saying, oh, in 2017, you might have this really big victory against Jeremy Corbyn. Of course, that, was not meant to be. She lost her majority and then had to rely on the DUP for her majority. And of course, what happened. Marc Francois, um, along with the DUP, along with the rest of the ERG, convinced the DUP that it is in their best interests, um, for the future of the union and for Brexit itself to, take out Theresa May, take out the government. They get Boris Johnson in, um, and and then quickly, once they were no longer needed, the DUP were thrown under the bus because, as Boris Johnson once said, no prime minister would ever countenance a border in the Irish Sea, to only literally a couple of months later to do exactly that. You know? But of course, what were May's plans? What were May's plans? And more particularly, this goes into why Marc Francois is crying this morning. He is out there in the Daily Telegraph telling everyone that Starmer is secretly planning to rejoin the European Union with this surrender squad that he has set up. Why has Marc Francois suddenly started crying so much? And why, of course, did I tell you all about that story about Theresa May? Well, of course, they connect together very, very well indeed. So, first of all, there has been a big move at the Foreign Office. In fact, the head now of the civil service in Whitehall, the head of the Foreign Office, is now Olly Robbins. So, Ollie Robbins is now in charge over at the Foreign Office. He is now being appointed. And why is Marc Francois so annoyed? Well, he was the chief architect of Theresa May's EU deal that she wanted to go for. Remember, that was the whole Northern Ireland backstop idea. That basically, if we couldn't get this deal, essentially what was going to end up happening was that the rest of the UK was going to end up remaining in the customs union. And of course, remember, to the Brexiteers at that time, this was a complete anathema. Remember, we'd apparently, according to them, all voted completely out of the European Union. Of course, that question, of course, had never really been put to the British public. But after all, Leave did say, and of course, the big brain, Daniel Hannan, did, infamously say that a vote for Leave was not to leave the single market and customs union. But again, here we are today, not in that. So they knew, of course, that they were pushing this. And even now, as we followed this throughout the years, for people like Marc Francois, Brexit was just never, ever enough. Even the great Brexit deal that they were claiming that Boris Johnson got was then being called Beano, Brexit in name only. It just was not enough. It was never, ever enough. And what happened was that over time, this supposed Brexit alliance that they had that brought down Theresa May just got smaller and smaller and smaller as people start to realize, we're not actually on board with this. We're not, ready to go onto that hill. After all, we've already been up that hill. We're not going to go and join you on the next hill. So the whole ERG influence and power just kept on getting smaller and smaller and smaller, to now where you get Penfold crying about the appointment of Olly Robbins, the absolute hated figure, the architect, of course, as we said, of Theresa May's Brexit deal, the one that would have kept us inside the EU, now in charge at the Foreign Office and going to be helping, of course, Starmer and Lammy very, very much with this big grand reset that we're going to be seeing this year. So, of course, what are they doing? They are crying about this appointment. And only, today we did our video about worrying about, or at least some people are at least worrying about the appointment of Ghislaine Stewart. Again, the head guy, or the head woman, should we say, at Vote Leave during that time when she was appointed. But I've always said, she was appointed, she went through the committee phase. Keir Starmer can't really just go and fire her unless there is real evidence that she is not being impartial, not being, objective in about the advice and stuff that she's doing. Remember, she doesn't have full decision over this. She's just one of the people who's going to be involved in the interviews, who's going to be selected, who will be involved in the selection of this. So we'll see what happens and who gets the top job of this, because obviously this is going to be quite important, especially this year as well. Like I say, big year for Brexit, of course, when it comes to sort of these talks and negotiations. I think Keir Starmer and Lammy have already, rebuilt relations with a lot of that. And we've seen that constantly. And of course, we don't know what Starmer and Lammy want yet because they haven't publicly said what they want yet. But as I said, until they actually walk into that room, go into those negotiations, they don't actually have to say what they want yet. And I think it does now continue very, very much with this Ming Vase strategy of, we do it slowly, slowly. I mean, Stella Creasy as well. There's been a lot of criticism against Stella Creasy. I mean, we'll just go to the New European talking about this. She did an interview because obviously she's head for the Labour movement for Europe. And she said, where is it here? Here it is. So she said this. She said, at the moment, this is not about rejoin, but instead trying to alleviate all the problems for British businesses and British artists that they currently encounter because now of the previous government's shambolic Brexit deal. She said, I am not currently sat here wearing a blue beret with golden stars on it singing Ode to Joy because I do not think that it is in the best interest of the British public. I'm being clear about what I think is in the best interest of the British public, which is to negotiate and focus on the now. This isn't going to help people at the sharp end of it, the people who I came into politics for, to be spending 10 years now in treaty negotiations. So again, being sort of very, pragmatic, focusing on the now, again, fits into that whole idea that we've always talked about, that Labour can just go and turn around and just go, this is Brexit. This is as best as it is ever going to be. We have improved it as best we can, but this is it. Do you really still want to go with this? Like, are you sure? And bear in mind, you look at the polls coming out this morning. Brand new one from, believe it or not, a very Brexit unfriendly place, the Mail on Sunday. They did a poll that got 53% to rejoin. 53% to rejoin. This is now very, very much concurrent with the polls that we have consistently been seeing, building majorities of people for rejoin. And of course, the people who want to stay out, they were at 40%. They have fallen off. That is getting smaller, while people who want to, rejoin, getting more and more. And bear in mind, as we said, this was in the Mail on Sunday. This is not exactly, the most rejoin-friendly place. It is very, very much pro-Brexit friendly. But to get that type of result, it speaks volumes of where the British public really is at the moment. And that seems to be building. Very, very much so. And I still want to point out, a lot of people thought even those poll numbers, like getting those type of poll numbers, what people were saying like a couple of years ago, we would not be here. They were saying we'd probably get these type of poll numbers in like another 5 years. So the British public are moved on this. It can, of course, be made, a significant issue. And I think that once you get these, renegotiations, if you've got movements like this, like Stella Creasy, the Labour group for Europe saying, like, we are going to make, basically present and show that this is as best as Brexit is ever going to be. Meanwhile, the alternative is right there, which is far better. And you can run a really positive campaign to rejoin. Like a really positive campaign to rejoin. And then anyone who wants to sort of argue against that has to argue for status quo. And status quo, as we can all see, isn't exactly the best. It's not exactly the best. Good luck running a campaign based on that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, there you go. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, click the like, click the share button on your way out. Links down below. Patreon page, buy me coffee link where you can buy me a coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So as always, we'll see you all next time.